Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of the PCM Hockey Podcast, as today is episode 3, as today I'm joined by my good old buddy Calvin Hector and also Mark Jones. How's your night, Calvin?
It's going good. I'm out of BC now. I'm back in Calgary, Alberta for school and such, but it feels good to be back in the city. And apologies for not being on the last podcast, but I had lots of stuff going on before I left BC. But now I'll be back to being a regular character with the PCM podcast.
No worries. And how's your night going, Mark?
Good. Just digesting everything. And, I was going to say to Calvin, I hope you get ready to do your mail-in ballot for our provincial election since I guess technically you could too, Payton. I mean, you can mail in, I think you could mail in ballots. So I don't care who you vote for. Well, I do, but I'm not going to tell you. Just vote. That's all I say. But on to hockey. No, it's hard to believe it's all done. And, congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yes, so the Tampa Bay Lightning won the Stanley Cup today in Game 6 in 6 games, and it was a dominating fashion of a game. I watched the end of the third period, and honestly, like Tampa Bay Lightning, the way that they play was just terrific, and Dallas Stars really had no energy left. Like, they were so exhausted, and especially relying all on the old guys and Pavelski and Corey Perry, which, man, you know what? Perry plays such a good game. Like, I got to give it to him. Perry plays such a good game, but at the exact same time, it just seems to, like, piss me off the way that he plays. Like, just every time he goes out there, he does something greasy or trips point and doesn't get a penalty called. Like, Perry is the best at not getting penalties called on him. Like, I just don't know how. But how is your guys' thoughts on the Stanley Cup Finals?
Do you want to go, Calvin, or do you want me to go?
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. I got to be honest. I didn't necessarily, for various reasons, watch like every minute of every game.
The same with me.
I watched, and going into tonight's game, I kind of thought. I mean, I guess this sounds like sitting on the fence, but I kind of thought, okay, it's either going to be sort of one. I mean, I thought anything could happen. It could be really close, or one team could kind of dominate. And I got to say, I mean, like I say, I was, after Vancouver was out cheering for Dallas. That's where it came down to. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm happy for Tampa. They did seem to find a way to battle through. I mean, they could have had the win the other night and they lost it in overtime, but they came out with a big effort. And just hearing some of the stats, I don't have all the exact stats, but I mean, their power play was a huge difference. I think it was a stat I heard unofficially on CBC. It was like 7 power play goals in the series versus 1 for Dallas. So, I mean, that right there, is huge. And I just got to say that, it wasn't like it was a wipeout or one-sided 4-0. I mean, Dallas was 2 wins away. I mean, I think they did run out of gas, and I was going to try to pull up all the numbers. I didn't really stop to think about this. I don't know where the balance was in terms of how many games it took them to get to the final. I mean, obviously 12 wins to get to the final, but I don't know how many games they played in each series, to be perfectly honest. Like, I don't know if Tampa had a little bit more rest or anything like that, but somehow it did seem Dallas was, and they said that on the broadcast, and I would agree, they did seem to be a little bit out of gas, but they didn't give up. They kept pushing, and it wasn't a blowout tonight. So, overall, for a fanless Stanley Cup, I give the NHL credit, and they seem to have, superstition, knock on wood, dodged any. Well, they got through the final anyways without any COVID cases, to my knowledge, or anything, going on while the bulk of the playoffs were going on. I think there were some rumors about some stuff going on earlier on, and maybe in the preliminary or something like that. Mm-hmm. If I seem to be stand to be corrected, but overall, I mean, for a fanless Stanley Cup, I credit your team's home city there too, Payton, Edmonton. I mean, they did a very good job of hosting it, and
they did.
Wow, yeah,
they did. And on that stat, Tampa Bay Lightning played 24 games while Dallas played 26. So
Yeah,
So
not a
really,
huge.
really close.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So Calvin,
So
what do you think
yeah,
about the game?
since we're talking stats, I mean, I'm looking at the stats line from Game 6 tonight, and it was pretty close for both teams. This could have easily gone to a Game 7.
They could have.
But Vasilevsky stood on his head for Tampa. I'm just going to go through. He got his first shutout career-wise in the playoffs. And, I mean, for a Stanley Cup clinching win, that's pretty good. I mean, it was a tight defensive game. Neither team got above 30 shots on goal. So it came down to the defense and the goaltending. I really think about it.
Lots of block shots.
That's right. I mean, Tampa had 22 and Dallas had 16, but I'm looking at the face-off percentage, and it was about 50-50. I mean, Tampa Bay had a slight edge in the face-off dot, but a lot of times you win games by your puck possession, as I've said. I think I said that in the first podcast, and it was a close one face-off wise, and power play, Tampa did capitalize on one of their 3 chances. Dallas wasn't able to capitalize with the same amount of penalties. So I think the game was repped pretty well, like bias-wise. Like it was about 50-50 calls-wise. And the hits were about the same. So, I mean, it easily could have gone towards Dallas, but just goaltending-wise and just Tampa Bay, Vasilevsky made some really important saves in the third period to keep Tampa Bay on top. And just unfortunately for Dallas, they just weren't able to capitalize on their chances.
Yeah, it really did suck for Dallas because you could see it in their eyes. Like, they were really trying out there, but they were so exhausted. And that comes with building a team around a lot of your older players because Radulov, he's like 30-some, Pavelski, Perry, Cogliano, they definitely do got an older team, and I heard a lot of analysts talk about that. And another stat, this is the first time since 1937 that a team without their captain and won the Stanley Cup. Since the last time they did that was 1937, which was a hell of a long time ago without their captain. So that is a pretty magnificent stat. But do you guys agree with Victor Hedman winning the Conn Smythe?
I guess based on the numbers that they said, like I say, I hadn't really given it a lot of thought about who else might be there. I mean, he seemed to be, sort of taking the easy way out. It seemed to be thought by, the main broadcast crew that it was a good choice. And I mean, I guess, based on his numbers again, I mean, I had thought maybe there was a lot of talk about a few times about, Point, or if I'm getting the name right, or maybe, you also was one time about the goaltender, Vasilevsky, or I'm sorry, you could edit that, but whatever his name is. But I mean, I guess he was, I guess he was as good as anybody. I don't know, your guys' thoughts.
Well, I'm just going to say I'm looking at, again, the stat line, but for Hedman this time, and as a defenseman, he was almost a point per game in these playoffs. And I don't think that's an easy thing to do with this bubble situation, just because everything was so different from normal. You're not really at home. You don't get that rest. You don't get your family around you. I mean, they did bring in family members for the Stanley Cup Finals, I think, and even the conference finals. I believe players were allowed to bring a couple of family members into the bubble. Still had to social distance, but Hedman had 21 points in 24 games, and I mean, as a defenseman, if you're producing almost a point per game pace, that is unbelievable. It's really hard as a defenseman to, commit every game to getting a point on the board. Normally, you're just trying your best to, stay in the plus, in that plus minus category. And so I think he was a good choice. And of course, everyone has their pick. Like, there were a couple names like Point, and you could have gone with a couple other players on Tampa Bay, but I think Hedman was a good choice for the Conn Smythe.
Yeah, I agree with you guys as well with Hedman. Hedman averaged 26 minutes worth of ice time, which is more than anybody on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Not just that, he put up 10 goals. And as a defenseman myself, I know how hard it is to score a goal as a defenseman. He was ranked third all time for most goals as a defenseman in the playoffs, right behind Paul Coffey and Brian Leach. He was only 3 goals away from tying Paul Coffey. That is crazy, and I think he's well deserved for this Conn Smythe. But let's talk about another player from the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that was Kevin Shattenkirk, a guy who struggled last year with the New York Rangers, got bought out, and had a great comeback year with the Tampa Bay Lightning, putting up 34 points, and in the playoffs he put up 13. Like, this guy has definitely really stepped up for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think he's also a free agent, and he shouldn't be too cheap because he's being paid like $6 million by the Rangers this upcoming year as well. So, yeah, how do you guys? Who was your biggest guy that had like a breakout playoffs from either the Dallas Stars or the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Who are you asking, me or
anyone can answer that one.
I'm trying to pinpoint one. I don't know if I would call it breakout, but I would say stepping up for Dallas. I mean, I give credit to Dallas for putting together a team with with Jim Nill as the GM for a few years now. They put together a good team, and I'm going to say that Perry and Seguin stepping up. I mean, they both have cups to their names at Anaheim and Boston, and I just think they said they needed to step up, and they didn't weren't able to get anything done in Game 6, but I mean, they came through yesterday, and of course Pavelski. So I can't say they were really surprising, but it wasn't like they were passengers, any of those three in the playoffs for Dallas, or certainly in this round. So but I can't think of anybody in terms of specifically breakout, I guess, other than maybe I'm a bit biased with the goaltending interest, bringing it back to Tampa's goaltender. I mean, to run the whole. I mean, it's not necessarily remarkable to run all the games, but lately, when you look at to play them all, he played them all. And, I mean, there probably could have been times they could have thrown, who was it, McElhaney in? I mean, just as changed things up, but it sounds like they never even did that at all, like even for a period. So, credit to him. And I mean, again, a lot of these guys, not to digress, but just to say, Tampa has paid their dues. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, going back to 2015, and I guess there's still some guys that are there, certainly Stamkos and the coach and that. They paid their dues, and they learned from, whether it be 2015, whether it be from last year, going out in round 1 to Columbus. They were on a mission here, and they seemed to be very laser focused on what they had to do.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking quite a bit about the Tampa Bay Lightning, but I'm going to jump over to Dallas. And if there's one thing in hockey that's usually a gamble player-wise and development-wise is your goaltender. And I'm just looking at Khudobin's playoff performance. Before the 2020 playoffs, he had only played in 2 playoff games. And to go all the way to the Cup Finals and be kind of his first real look at the NHL playoffs, I mean, he performed unreal for what he had to do. He had to step up to the plate. I mean, I think Dallas originally obviously was going to go with Ben Bishop, and then Khudobin had to come step up to the call, and he really did, because you don't just magically go to the Cup final. Usually as a goaltender, it comes with experience. You have a couple series losses on your belt, but then to see that he's only played 26 career playoff games, and 24 of those are this year, is just amazing. And to keep his save percentage was 9.17 this playoffs. It's just, I think he was the most shocking for me performing for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, that's for sure. And Anton Khudobin, I mean, he was just terrific. Only playing 30 games in the regular season to playing 24 into the playoffs, which was 2 months. It's crazy how much the time flew by, right? In August we were getting playoff hockey in summer, and now we're not having any hockey, and the future of hockey is really up to being in the question. Of course, we have the draft in 7 days now, and also free agency also coming up. So we got some big stuff coming up, which is really, really exciting. Which next week, we're going to be mostly talking a lot about the draft and stuff like that. Which day does the draft actually start? I didn't do any research on that exactly yet. Do you guys know?
I have to try to pull that up. I know the free agency, I believe, is the 9th.
Yeah.
So the draft has to be somewhere, I would say, around the 5th or 6th. I'm just pulling it out, I guess.
The 6th and 7th.
October 6th is the first round. And then I'm sure, like, as most years go, they'll do the first round on the 6th, maybe the 2nd, and then the rest on the 7th. They sometimes switch it up. I know the one year they tried to do them all in one day, I think it was. They just did a one-day draft.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But usually they do it as a 2-day, and with this virtual thing, I think they'll take their time.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be doing the 2 days. And, of course, free agency coming up, which should be a very exciting one with Taylor Hall and Alex Pietrangelo and stuff like that being available. 2 huge names, which we'll track towards, because I think we've talked about enough about the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Dallas Stars. I'm going to give one more congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning on winning the Cup. It was a real great year for them. They deserved it. They've been playing their asses off all decade long to get to this Cup, and they finally did. They finally pulled it off, and it was even more tremendous that they did it without their captain and Steven Stamkos. But we're going to jump towards some trades that happened. This was a weird one, as the Florida Panthers acquired Patrick Hornquist from the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for Mike Matheson and for Colton, I don't know how to say his last name, Scrivier or whatever the hell it is. But this was a trade that I was kind of dumbfounded by. Like, what do you guys think, Mark?
I'm somewhat new to I missed this trade. So
right.
Full disclosure. I guess, no, but that being said, I mean, I guess Rutherford is trying to, I sometimes think that Rutherford, I mean, he's had some cups. I guess I'm not sure if he was there for both of the recent cups in Pittsburgh. I'm going to say he was. And then Carolina, I think he has a short amount of patience on things, and the fact that Pittsburgh got taken out in the play-in round, I guess it was, if I'm remembering correctly, against Montreal. I just think he was looking for ways to. I mean, this is a guy that's often they're fired, the coach and things like that very sometimes relatively quickly, or doesn't leave a lot of rope to the coach to hang himself, so to speak. They haven't done that, and I don't think that was the situation to do. So I think in terms of the trade, they're trying to shake something up, and obviously it was maybe bring in some grit with this Matheson, and I don't know much about the other player, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, they've got to try to wheel and deal, because they've got to try to change things up. Anytime you're a team with clearly, a lot of talent just off the top of the head, whether you talk about Crosby or Malkin and you go out in that play-in round. I mean, that's the way it's going to go. There's a lot of parity in the league, but some GMs and that really feel maybe this is the time to shake things up. So I guess that's I don't have a lot of specifics to add, but that's just kind of my take on it.
I think Pittsburgh, what they're almost doing, I see them as trying to become more of a younger team, because they see how the league is kind of shifting into that. Teams are wanting to get faster, younger, bigger guys. And I mean, Crosby isn't getting any younger. Malkin isn't getting any younger. So they have to figure out how they're going to change the guard, because I'm sure there's only another 4 or 5 seasons of prime left in both Gino and the Crosby. Sid the Kid. So I mean, it's tough for Pittsburgh's situation right now, because they're disappointed they got knocked out in the play-in round. They were upset by Montreal, of course, but it's looking ahead to the future, and as a good GM, that's kind of what you have to do. You can't really look one season ahead. You got to see where your cards are going to be maybe 3 or 4 seasons ahead. And so I think this trade's just kind of switching things up in the meantime, but they're looking into the future for sure. The Penguins,
and which they are. Their forward group on an average age is 27.9, and their defense is at 20. So they're definitely getting younger. And I just this team is really weird to me because Rutherford, I feel like, is like Chiarelli 2.0. Like, he's making decent moves, but he's signing a lot of dumb contracts. Like, we seen the Brandon Tanev move, a depth piece, a guy that was a third to fourth liner, getting like a 7-year, $3.5 million contract. It was 6 years with a no trade clause as well, which I thought was really kind of stupid for them to do because his highest point total was 29 points for a $3.5 million player. I don't think that's the greatest deal. But picking up Kasperi Kapanen, I do like them picking up Kasperi Kapanen, signing Jared McCann to another deal. That brings in some youth. But I think they should have just kept their first round draft pick. People have been building up this draft to be like one of the bigger drafts, which I think it will. This 2020 draft that we're heading into with Laforêt and Byfield and Stetzel and Drysdale and Yaroslav Askarov, we got a lot of good players in this draft, and I mean, it's been a hot commodity for first round draft picks over the past couple of days, and especially after of course Toronto and Edmonton not wanting to trade their 14th overall pick either. It's just really weird that they're cap strapping themselves with Matheson and Dumoulin and of course Jack Johnson, which was horrible. But we also heard after the deal with Patrick Hornquist throwing a little bit of a fit. I think he threw out his gear, from what I'm correct, out of his window. Have you guys heard anything about that? Or
I just heard very little in passing about it, and I guess before we started, you made a mention of it, but no, I had really not heard any. I'm sorry, I'm just picturing it in my mind, theater of the mind, and I'm laughing at it, so if that's true. So I don't know. No, I really didn't hear much about that.
Yeah, it's the first time hearing about this from you, Peyton, but what I picture, it's almost like a fit where like a golf caddy gets mad at his golfer and throws the clubs in the water kind of thing. So that's what I'm picturing.
He was kind of blindsided because this trade was announced even before he waived his no trade clause, and then because he has a no trade clause with the contract that they gave him, and they weren't able to get in contact with him at first. So let's switch ways to the Florida side of things. What does this do for Florida with them picking up Patrick Hornquist? We'll start off with Kelvin on his thoughts on it.
Well, I mean, I like to judge trades most of the time, come a few weeks into the season, but seeing as we're not really going to know when the 2021 season, I guess, would start. I mean, bringing in Hornquist, he's been in the league a while, so they're bringing in another veteran. I mean, I think it was a disappointing season for Florida. They dished out big money to get Bobrovsky, and he didn't really perform like he did with Columbus. And so, I mean, it was a good addition to the team. I mean, up front, I think Florida had an issue, and so adding him with Huberdeau and Barkov, and and it looks like he might get put with Hoffman as the other winger. So, I mean, I have to wait and see before I can judge fully, but I just think it's a good addition for Florida for sure, and for not much in return.
And I would say, from my knowledge of it, I would say, I mean, Florida basically is looking to, they got to shake things up. I mean, I forget what the number of years is that I didn't realize it was so many that they've missed the playoffs, and they've obviously, I mean, they got a proven winner of a coach, but that's not an automatic. I mean, we've seen that with many teams. They bring in, coaches that don't, that can't necessarily, they got to work with the talent you've got. Florida has now made changes with their GM, and I think with Talon gone, so I think they're trying to probably make some moves, and they've got to obviously retool because again they couldn't get it done to do much or anything in the postseason. So I think it's just a question of shuffling things around. The other part is I quickly doing some looking. It looks like Pittsburgh's player that they traded away was about $5 million a season. I see at least one part coming back the other way is only about $1 million something a season. I think that was Matheson. So it could be, a salary, shift as well, because Florida might have some room to work with a little bit more salary. So it could be kind of one of these things, you're helping out someone, hoping somewhere down the way they'll help you out or what have you.
Yeah. Yeah. How much was it? Yeah. So Florida gained about 775, and Pittsburgh lost out on a little bit of money. And I seen a report afterwards about Rutherford making a mistake about not seeing his cap or something like that. I don't know how it exactly went, but it was just where he was totally clueless about his cap and him accidentally spending more on that trade, which is kind of funny. But yeah, for Florida, I think this is a huge power play gain for them, and they've been needing offense, and they're gonna improve on the defense, which I've been hearing a lot of rumors about Pietrangelo coming to Florida, which is one of the many rumors for Pietrangelo, which we'll kind of start talking, because I mean we're only like, what is it, 10 days away from free agency. So we're coming up very, very close with maybe Pietrangelo and Taylor Hall dropping, which we'll talk about later on. But I think this trade for Florida is a stepping stone for them, and is kind of a proving point towards a lot of their other forwards, like maybe Dadonov and Hoffman, as they are unrestricted free agents, to maybe entice them to come back to Florida, maybe for a cheaper dollar or maybe the same price. We'll have to see on that part. And then there was also another small little trade with Mark Stahl going to Detroit and a 2021 second round pick for the Rangers. Just practically a cap dump. Nothing too important there. So we'll jump towards free agency, and we're going to have a pretty big free agency. Of course, this year it's headlined by Pietrangelo and Taylor Hall. And we'll start talking about Pietrangelo again. In the last episode, we were kind of just talking about where he might end up. And we haven't got a answer because Calvin missed last episode. So where do you think Alex Pietrangelo will be going?
He better come to Calgary. That's all I have to say. Calgary needs, in my opinion, to shake things up and the forwards a bit. Even with a new coach, I mean, taking the interim tag off of Jeff Ward. But definitely he'd be a good fit. I mean, it's easy to say that, but usually players like Pietrangelo will go to, after winning a cup, especially, I mean, one season removed now from winning a cup, he'll go to a place where I don't want to say wants to finish his career, but somewhere where he wants to play for a while and hopefully win another cup. Now, is Calgary the right team for that? Probably not, because they have so many questions after each season, failing to even reach a conference final since 2005. Or 2004, sorry, 5 was the lockout. So, I mean, I can't really guess where he's going to go. I just have my input on would he be good for the Flames, and I think so. But we'll have to wait and see. It's obviously up to the player to figure out where he wants to take his career and, what team he thinks is the best fit for him.
And then we got Taylor Hall, which we didn't talk about very much in the last episode, but he's a big free agent right now with Arizona and stuff like that. As Bill Armstrong, he's been trying to make major moves on trying to sign Taylor Hall to the Coyotes again, which would be a huge move for the Coyotes. I mean, if you get Taylor Hall back on the team, I think Arizona will definitely start trending up with a lot of the young players that they do have. But do you guys think Taylor Hall is going to resign with the team, or do you guys think he's going to go to free agency? We'll head off to Mark. What do you think?
I think, it's probably at this point, if he hasn't signed, then he's going to, test the market. And I don't know, I don't know where the fit would be from him. I mean, that was a Chiarelli move out of Edmonton to send him to Jersey, and then Jersey gets some moves him to Phoenix or to Arizona. So I don't know. It's kind of like, follow the moving, the bouncing ball, right? Because now he's been with 3 different teams in he's been in the league, 7-8 years?
Yeah, something like that.
So, it's sometimes you start to wonder, okay, what's going on here? I mean, I'm kind of thinking, I just don't know where the fit would be for him. There's got to be some fit. I just, off the top of my head, I can't think where he might go, where else he might go. But if they haven't signed him yet, then I don't see him re-signing in Arizona. I would have to say he goes to free agency, and then it's just a question of, is someone going to be smart in terms of a not, just throw gobs of money and then have a contract. We've seen other teams do that with players and they live to regret it, right? So yeah. I don't see him re-signing in Arizona at this point.
I'm going to jump in. I think Hall is that rare case where I don't think he's looking at free agency for the size of his contract. He's stated publicly that he's upset he's only been in the playoffs twice, and he's been in the league almost 10 years now. So obviously that's going to factor into his decision when he goes to the market, and he's going to choose a team who looks like they're on the uprise, have been making the playoffs, not like wishy-washy, and again, let's bring the hometown boy to Calgary because, he's from the Calgary area. But again, I think in a similar thing to what Pietrangelo might think is that the Flames, as good as they have been in recent years, but they haven't been able to make that final push. And unless Hall thinks he can be that factor to, push him further into the Stanley Cup playoffs and hopefully even the finals, I don't think he's going to come to Calgary. It's tough for Calgary with their cap right now. I know they have a little bit of room, but the way that their bottom line players played this season, they're going to want to keep a lot of it intact. I know for sure Lucic is staying, and that's not an easy cap hit for a third, fourth line player to have on your team. Like, it's definitely not a light contract. And then the Flames definitely in the prospect system have quite a few guys that are really proving themselves in Stockton. So I just don't think the timing is good for Hall to come to Calgary. I don't think he's going to sign a long-term deal out of this free agency. I think he might go 3 or 4 years just because I think that's the way it's going to go with a lot of these free agents, just because of how COVID-19 has affected the salary cap and just the way the league has to kind of restructure itself. So I think he's going to sign short-term, maybe 2-3 years. But again, it's hard to tell what team he might go to. But a proven playoff team, who knows? Maybe Dallas tries to go for him. I mean, obviously they got the money. Yeah. And they're not going to be happy losing in Game 6 tonight. So they have to figure it out. They're not going to stay the exact same. And, Hall might go to Dallas, and I think that might be a good fit for him and good timing.
They would have to clear some cap space, of course, but I mean, it is possible. I think the biggest possibility where Taylor Hall might be going is Colorado. I think Colorado is definitely one of the bigger possibilities because they're definitely going to look to bolster up. They have a lot of RFAs. They got Nikushkin, Wilson, Nieto, Jost, Kemenov, Burakovsky, and Nemastankinov all as free agents. I mean, a couple of them as RFAs with Burakovsky, Kemenov, and Jost, and Nikushkin. Some of them with arbitration rights, of course. But I think Colorado is a good possibility. And even Calgary, like, if Calgary bids a perfect pitch and they get lucky, maybe even clearing some cap space with maybe Derek Ryan, which I was going to talk to you about something because I seen on Twitter. How would you guys think of Chris Russell for Derek Ryan? I was just like seeing some kind of like, I don't know who it was, which analyst it was. It wasn't even really rumored, just kind of like just throw it kind of out there. But do you think the Calgary Flames would accept a deal for Russell for Derek Ryan, just kind of like a cap swap? You guys get a nice defensive defenseman that could block a lot of shots, and we get a third-line centerman in Derek Ryan. What do you think of that deal?
Well,
Go ahead.
This is the first I've heard of this. I mean, you said you just kind of found it on a blip. Now, my first thought of this is Chris Russell was already with the Flames. I forget how many seasons he played.
I think it was like a couple.
One of them was definitely, I remember the year where we had Glenn Gulletson. Or no, sorry, it was Bob Hartley. And all we did were stretch passes and block shots. And that got us into the playoffs. And then Bob Hartley was fired because that system is not sustainable.
Yeah, he had like 34 points that year. He was a stud for you guys that year, Chris Russell.
It was a great year. I mean, just defensively, and it was mostly Chris Russell. He was blocking a lot of the shots. He likes to he's not scared to put his body on the line.
Yeah, so, like Lance Boma had 34 points for you guys.
Yeah, it was definitely a one-off year though. That's the only issue with that.
Holy fuck.
Like if that production could have continued, then the Flames could have easily made the playoffs for another 2 or 3 seasons after that in a row. I think timing-wise, it could be a good fit. I mean, Derek Ryan is getting a little up there in age because he was not a young rookie when he came into the league. Like, he was past 30, I think, his rookie season.
I think so.
And he's got a lot of grit to him for a small hockey player. He's not afraid to go, for the puck battles, and I think that might be good for the Oilers because they have the offensive potential, but they need to, I guess, play more aggressive, I would say, because McDavid even said when they lost out in the play-in round, we can't only show up when we play Calgary when it's Battle of Alberta. We got to have more grit in every single game, not just, playing Calgary. And so I think it could benefit both teams. I mean, hey, the Lucic for Neal trade did benefit both the Oilers and the Flames. I'm not going to brag, but I think the Flames did better in the long run.
No. I don't think I'm going to agree with you on that one because just the buyout,
all day about
the buyout clause just in general with James Neal wins the deal. You can't even buy out Milan Lucic without having to pay him a ton of money. I mean, Oilers, we're going to have to pay a little bit of it, of course, but the Milan Lucic buyout is just crazy. The James Neal one, the way that we could buy James Neal out is just fantastic, and especially since he gave us 20 goals, I think it's worked out for both sides evenly. I think in the end, I think the Oilers won the deal because of the fact that we got a good goal scorer in James Neal and that we have a guy that we could easily buy out and get $3 million back, or I think it's like $3.8 million in savings. Of course, we're not going to be buying him out this year since we already have so much dead cap still. But Milan Lucic, he did get good near the end of the year, and I got to give credit. Milan Lucic had a great playoffs. When he was playing in the play rounds and then kind of against Dallas, he definitely started showing that fatigue. But I give it to Milan Lucic. He had a decent year. He played pretty well. Is he a guy that I want to pay $5.25 million? No, it's definitely not something I would want to do. But in the end of the days, I think it was a pretty good deal for both teams. It helped you guys get a little bit more physical, and it helped the Oilers have a consistent goal scorer, which we really needed. Backtracking, I guess I'll talk about. I already talked about where he would be going. I guess I said Colorado. We'll kind of talk about each team's off season for all of our favorite teams. So. We'll start off with Mark and his Vancouver Canucks. Oh my god! Apparently I can't get out a word today. What are you most excited about with this off season for the Vancouver Canucks?
I think it's going to be interesting to see what they're going to do with what comes out of all this. I mean, obviously there's some key free agents, and I think another thing that just as you guys are talking, I'm thinking about, this is going to be, the second go around in a cap era where there's expansion on the horizon. It's not coming up for this season, but it's, one more season here. By the time we get to this time, wherever it is in the calendar year, we get to free agency following assuming there is a 2021 season, which, we would think there is if they managed to do it this year. That being said, you got Seattle coming, another season down the road. So I think all the teams are going to be positioning themselves. And I think to bring it back to Vancouver, I think if they can get something done with Markstrom, it's all going to be contingent on, I think we touched on this a little bit before, does it make sense in terms of are you strangling yourself or, restricting yourself when it comes to the expansion draft in terms of, is it, are you putting yourself in a position where you're going to, hinder yourself? So I think what's going to be interesting is in my opinion, and it's sort of a prediction, I think, I could be wrong, but I'm kind of leaning about 90% likely that they'll get Toffoli signed, which, realistically, I mean, he's out of all the free agents. I mean, that, if you look at Tanev, you look at Markstrom, and you look at Toffoli in terms of the upside and the instant sort of filling of a gap that we needed in terms of some scoring punch. Toffoli came through, and we gave up, a significant amount for the trade. So I think you don't want to lose out on him. So I'm looking forward to hopefully they can find a way to get him signed. That's really my big highlight or my big expectation, I guess, on that one.
Calvin?
All right. Well, I'm looking at the Calgary Flames contracts coming up this year, and it looks like they have quite a bit of cap space, but they have a lot of defensemen they need to sign. It looks like Travis Hamonic needs to be re-signed, and I'm sure he's going to want a few million a season, so that's going to take a bit of cap space. I mean, Derek Forbort, we got him in that trade at the deadline. Do they keep him? I mean, he was an okay fit, but he's definitely a bottom 2 defenseman in my opinion. Like, he's bottom 6. Stone still needs to be re-signed, but he was just brought in because of the Valimaki injury. So I think Stone will hit the free agent market and see if he can end up with another team. And that kind of seems to be every offseason the Flames will bring in some defensemen at the deadline, and then a couple will leave in the offseason. And I mean, I'm really looking forward to Juuso Valimaki playing his first full season with the Flames. It was just so unfortunate that he had this preseason injury that just neglected him through the whole season. So he kind of missed out on his rookie year, so to speak. I mean, I think they'll classify the 2021 season as his rookie year. But he missed out on a full year of hockey, basically. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really looking forward to him. He's young. He's talented. He's had a few years to grow now as a defenseman. He's only 21, so the Flames can easily keep him on their blue line for years to come. I mean, Giordano's getting old now. He's in the last couple of years of his contract, and he's getting up there in age. So I think Valimaki might have to take the torch off of Giordano. We'll see how the pairings go in the new season. And the Flames have to sign a goalie because they only have one signed right now, and that's Riddick. Talbot is a free agent, and that's the biggest question mark for me in this offseason with the Flames is, do they re-sign Talbot, or do they bring up one of their younger goalies and trust Riddick to handle a full season?
I don't think you could trust Riddick, though, is the biggest that's the biggest question with the Flames and stuff like that. I mean, he definitely did struggle near the end of the season before, of course, COVID-19 hit. And I know you guys have been in the mix in the talks, of course, with Darcy Kemper, which I don't think would be too bad of a move for you guys. But now, of course, you would have to give up a first-round draft pick, which a lot of teams are kind of neglecting to do this offseason. So we'll have to see what the Calgary Flames are going to do. Actually, I was seeing a post today about Rasmus Andersson and his advanced analytics, and I was taking a look at Rasmus Andersson. And whenever I watch Flames games, because as I live in Calgary, I get to know more and more about Flames, and of course I talk with you, Calvin, all the time about the Flames, and I learn more and more about who's a good Flame and who's a bad Flame. And Rasmus Andersson, whenever the Oilers faced up against the Flames, Rasmus Andersson was always able to shut down our top goal scorers. And I just love the way he plays. His value of his contract, when I first seen it, I was like, this is a really bad contract for the Calgary Flames. 4.5 for a long time. That might be kind of seems like an expensive contract, but it's kind of like what the Oilers did with Oscar Klefbom, paying him for $4.1 million. And Anderson is really playing above what his value is. His value, determined by advanced analytics, is about $6.5 million. And
he's signed for another 6 seasons with the Flames, so he locked in for a 7-year deal when he signed.
Especially, and that's a team-friendly contract. $4.5 million? Like, that's not going to affect your team. And if he's going to be your top pairing guy, top 4, whatever he's going to be for the Calgary Flames, he's going to be a great long-term defenseman for the Flames. And that's what the Flames need. You guys have had struggling over the past couple of decades. You guys have had some real problems keeping players in Calgary and having players locked up for a long time. We have seen that over the years with the Glinla. We've seen so many players play with Iggy over the years. So it's nice to get some insurance with the Flames and stuff like that. But to the Oilers, it's a big offseason, I guess, for us, because at first there was rumors about us being really talkative and we're going to make a lot of moves, to now Ken Holland and Nicholson saying that we're not going to really make too many moves. We're just going to make a couple tweaks. Now, I don't know what that really means. A lot of our Edmonton Oilers media have just been kind of, they've been crazy lately, to say the honest. They've been kind of pissing me off with the remarks that they say and stuff like that. Some of them are agreeable, but a lot of people were looking at these play-in rounds like it was the true hockey that the Oilers play. This was not the hockey that we played, and especially against the Chicago Blackhawks, we did not play very well. Of course, with our money this year, we have about $11.1 or $11.2 million walking into free agency. Of course, with James Neal locked up, we have a lot of other players. We have Nudes that we got to pay next year, but we have Anthony Ciu, which his rumors have just been all over the place. Apparently, we're going to be trading him, but no one really wants to pay the price. So it looks like we're probably going to be paying Andreas Anthony Ciu $3 million. I really don't want to see him go. I think when I think it was about Game 3, Anthony Ciu was really shining, and I was talking about it in my Oilers reaction videos, and I was saying that Anthony Ciu shines, but he needs to be given a chance, and I think we need to give him a chance next year because I think he could be a very explosive player. Then we'll also be rumored to be bringing back Puljujarvi as well, which I think would be a huge player to get into the lineup, maybe even a first-line winger in Puljujarvi if we can get him back for a year. Of course, we have Ennis and Sehan as well. I don't see Sehan coming back. He's just going to be asking for way too much money, especially just for a fourth liner PK guy for Sehan. He's not really good 5-on-5, which is a thing the Oilers need to improve upon. And then, of course, Tyler Ennis, which I don't know what's going to be happening there. Defensively, we need to make a move. I think a puck-moving defenseman is a real big thing for the Edmonton Oilers. We have a lot of big guys that like to block shots, and I think we really need to change that up a little bit. Adam Larson, I think, would be somebody that we can move away from and maybe go after a puck-moving defenseman like Shattenkirk. Shattenkirk, I think, would be perfect for the Edmonton Oilers since he's already being paid, like, $6 million? But I think he's going to probably sign back with Tampa Bay for probably the exact same contract. But as we're going to be ending things off here very soon, as I do got to get to bed because I got classes in the morning. I get to go on campus tomorrow. So that'll be exciting.
Hey.
But any final thoughts from you guys on just anything? Any final thoughts?
It's just I give credit to the NHL for getting this bubble COVID Stanley Cup thing to come off. I just saw somewhere, and now I've lost it on the phone. It looks like they had 0 cases that they're saying. I don't know through which phase of COVID or of this tournament. I mean, overall there was no big outbreak. There was whatever. So I give them credit, and I mean. It was different without fans, and I was a little bit wondering how was this going to be, like a large scale, like playing, at some major rink as your rec hockey playing in the middle of the night kind of thing, and no fans. Well, they managed to make it work, and was it the same? No, but did it somehow replicate some of the feel? Yeah, and I give them credit on that. So that's just my thought. I mean, it's going to be weird now to have the hockey done again, but they gave it a good run, and it was nice to have back. And there'll still be some hockey talk to come here in the coming months. So that's my thoughts. And again, just congratulations to Tampa. I'm sorry my Canucks didn't get beyond round 2, but you know what? I'm okay with Tampa winning. There's a few teams that I did not want to win the cup, but I'm okay with them winning it. So.
Final thoughts. I mean, Markham, Ontario's Steven Stamkos, it's taken him just over 800 NHL games to get his first Stanley Cup. And, just praise for him because he's battled so many injuries. He's had so many hardships over his hockey career, missing out on Olympic tournaments and the 2015 Stanley Cup with Tampa, they could have won it there easily, but they had the injury bug hit them at the wrong time, and so he's finally going to get his name on that Stanley Cup. And as much as I don't like the Tampa Bay Lightning, but that's a Calgary Flames bias that can be, for another time.
We all know. We all know why you feel the pain.
But I do feel really happy that Stamkos is finally able to get his name on Lord Stanley and be referred to as Stanley Cup champion Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, honestly, congrats to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I've been a fan of Steven Stamkos since he got drafted in the league. I remember getting hockey cards of him, and just the way that Stamkos played was it was electric. He was a very good hockey player. Just sucked that he was always injured whenever they had playoff opportunities. But yeah, congrats to the Tampa Bay Lightning for winning the Stanley Cup, and congrats to the NHL for doing such a successful bubble. Now it definitely did cost them a lot of money, and I don't think we'll ever see this bubble thing again. But who knows what the future beholds with us right now. We got the draft in 7 days, so that will be super exciting. We'll be making a podcast talking about it and everything like that, and we'll also give some free agent cover for you guys as well, as the next week should be an exciting one. But we're going to end the podcast here. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure to go check out our other episodes. And also, down in the description below, we got all our social media links for both Calvin and Mark. So go check out their social medias. But for right now, guys, we're going to sign off here. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you guys all later. Adios, amigos.